Hello everyone and welcome to a game a lot of you have requested. It's from the AI Cup and it is the 6th event of this year's Champions Chess Tour. We have a very nice game between Vladimir, Kramnik and Moke and Niemann. This is the first game of their match, and basically how it works is first players play a 9-round Swiss tournament, and then those who did well in the Swiss tournament go into matches, and they will play a 2-game match. If it's a draw, then of course they go into Armageddon. So this is the first game of the match, Vladimir Kramnik versus Moke and Niemann. And like I said, a lot of you have requested it, but now that Kramnik posted this, well, he didn't post it, he basically changed his info on chess.com into this. I decided to cover it. So this is what Kramnik said on his chess.com account. He says, I have decided to stop playing on chess.com from tomorrow on. Just too many obvious cheaters here, and nothing is done to clean the platform from those small crooks. Harsh words, but true. Would continue informing those who care publishing interesting statistics, though. Hope would come back one day if it will be cleaned from at least obvious cheaters. I promise will continue trying my best to save the chess from this disease. As much as I can, fighting with natural squeamishness, which is the main reason of my chess.com departure. The strength is in truth. So there you have it. That is what Vladimir wrote on his chess.com profile page. And now let's check out the game, and then let's check out what Hans proposed to him on his well, I'm still going to call it Twitter. I find it really weird calling it X. Maybe it will grow on me, but I'm just going to go with Twitter for the moment. So let's check it out. This is the first game of their match. Vladimir has the white pieces, and he opens with knight to f3. He goes for the Reti opening, as you might expect from the former world champion. We have d5 by Hans, g3, knight to c6, and now pawn to d4. We have bishop to f5, and now bishop to g2, pawn to e6, and Vladimir castle. So it's a pretty standard setup of the King's Indian attack, where usually knight to f6 is played, but Hans goes for knight to b4. It's actually the second most popular continuation, just going after the c2 pawn, and now knight to a3 is the move to defend it. But Kramnik goes knight to e1. It's very rare, only been played like 4 times in top tier games, and as I understand it, mostly by Russian players. Knight to f6, and now pawn to c3. Kicking away the knight goes back, and now Kramnik develops by pinning the knight with bishop to g5. We have bishop to e7, and now knight to d2, continuing development. And now there is a game where castles was played, but Hans plays knight to e4, and it is now already as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So offering a lot of trades here, knight for knight, bishop for bishop, and while Kramnik does trade on e7, bishop captures, queen captures, he just plays f3. He wants to kick away the knight, and then grab the full center with pawn to e4. So okay, Hans trades, we have captures, and castles queen side. So now we have castles on opposite sides of the board, as Kramnik already played g3 and f3, and those pawns will be target for Hans's soon-to-be advancing pawns. So pawn to e4 and bishop back to g6. We have knight to d3 now, an excellent score for the knight and an excellent center for Kramnik, but he does have the sort of a ruined king side. And of course, Hans wants to hone in on that target. So pawn to h5, and Vladimir stops it, pawn to h4, and now pawn to e5. The king has been weakened, so it's time to open up the position. E captures on d5, rook captures, nicely aligning the rook with the queen on d2, and now pawn to f4, opening up an attack against the rook here, and Hans simply plays pawn to e4. And now you could play this a lot of different ways. The engine's favorite choice is rook f to e1, just pinning the pawn so you cannot take the knight, and after the pawn is defended, you just continue the attack on the queen side, b5, a4, b4, a4, b5, and so on. But here, after pawn to e4, we have pawn to f5. Kramnik sacrifices a pawn, obviously for rapid development. Bishop captures on f5, rook a to e1, and now bishop to h7. The time format, as you know, is rapid, and they have 10 minutes each for the game, plus 2 seconds increment. We have knight to f4, and now rook d as the rook is attacked, rook d back to d8, and now knight captures on h5. Kramnik wins the pawn back. So here we have pawn to f5, now defending those pawns, and now if you look at the position, Kramnik might have something here, but those pawns in front of the king do not look good, especially for rapid time format. So queen g5, of course, he would very much enjoy trading queens, and Hans plays pawn to g6. Now, He says, let's trade, and then he will just enjoy a very nice position. And in fact, this is objectively best for Kramnik. He should just trade and then go back knight to f4, and the game continues. Okay, you want to maybe stop this, or you're going to play rook d6, but it's a pretty equal position. However, after g6, knight to f6 was played, and now we have rook d to f8. Now going after the knight here, and Kramnik has to trade here. We have knight captures on h7, queen captures on h7, and now pawn to d5, continuing to advance the d pawn, and then of course c5, c4, c5 is coming. Knight to d8, and now queen back to e3, trying to grab the a7 pawn. So of course Hans stops it, he plays rook to b8, and now pawn to c4. Of course now you want to start advancing those pawns. Knight to f7, as Hans does control all of these squares, the knight really does belong on e5, and Kramnik tries to stop it with queen to f4, but now queen to g7, still preparing knight to e5, and now we have pawn to c5. Here Kramnik even gives up the d5 pawn for the attack, or maybe he just blundered it, I have no idea, but it's already a position that's very hard to play for him. Queen to d4 check, queen e3, now Kramnik offers a queen trade, and queen captures on d5. We have rook to d1, now you want to win some tempi here, and while Hans could go after the a2 pawn, he does not want to give Kramnik the semi-open a file, so he goes back, queen to e6, and now pawn to b4. We have knight to e5, as we discussed. Now the knight has all of these squares, all depending on what Kramnik plays, and pawn to b5. We have knight to g4, attacking the queen, and queen to d4. And here is where things get really interesting. You have to be very careful because you do have back rank issues. Yes, the d8 square is guarded twice now by the two rooks, but that can easily change. And here, interestingly, Hans played pawn to g5. Now the top engine move, as I'm sure some of you or all of you are wondering, is queen to e7. And queen to e7 stops all of Kramnik's ideas of ever using the d file, the d8 square to his advantage, while nicely preparing pawn to g5 without actually leaving white any useful moves. But Hans went for the immediate pawn to g5, as this is rapid time format. You don't want to give your opponent too much time to think, and bishop to h3 is the move you kind of have to play here, although your position is still really bad. Kramnik played h captures on g5, and now Hans's position is completely winning, but it's not clear how and why it's completely winning. Now I could make this moment like a pause the video moment because I was planning another one, but I could make this one and another one just to make it more realistic for you. Feel free to pause the video and try to find the absolute best move for Hans while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on, of course, figuring out you have to somehow reach the h2 square with the queen. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen to g8, which is not the move Hans played. Hans played queen to g6, which kind of has the same idea, only, you know, in the heat of the battle, it kind of misses a few intricacies of the position. Now, the reason why queen to g8 is much better is that, well, you never have to worry about queen to d8. That's the whole point. Not about queen to d8. The real threat is bishop captures on e4, and then if captures, you're going to trade a pair of rooks, and then you're going to play queen to d8, sacrifice the queen, and checkmate the black king. If the black queen is not also guarding the back rank. So this is what happened when Hans played queen to g6. He still has the idea of going for queen to h2, but now he does not have control over the back rank. And now if Kramnik found bishop captures on e4, he's still in the game. I'm going to show it as he did not find it. Bishop captures on e4, and now you cannot capture. If you capture, we already said, you trade a pair of rooks, you sacrifice the queen, and it's a back rank mate. So of course you cannot do that. So after bishop captures on e4, you have to pretend like that never happened. You have to play queen to h5, and now you are threatening this beautiful checkmate here, but just rook d2. And now look at this, bishop covers this diagonal, the rook covers the h2 square. You're gonna play queen h3, go after the pawn, and now you have to play bishop to f3. It's silly, but that's how you have to do it, again with the threat of bishop captures on g4. So queen captures on g3 check, and now rook to g2. Again, queen h4, going for checkmate on h1. Now again, you move the rook, and the bishop covers the h1 square. You move the rook to e2, and now everything is very nice. You can go for a repetition, or you could go for queen captures on g5 and hope to survive this. So maybe black wins this, but it is definitely Kramnik's best choice, which of course would not be possible had Hans played the top engine move queen to g6. But here Kramnik just played pawn to b6, and now his position falls apart. Queen to h5, now Kramnik is not in time for anything, pawn captures on c7, and now you have to capture. If you don't, then you run into trouble. So Hans captures, queen to d6 check, king to c8, and now rook f to e1. The problem is if you go queen to d7 check, yes, you can give 2 more checks, but after king to a8, there is no continuation. There are no more checks, there are no threats here. It's game over for Kramnik. So here rook f to e1 was played, freeing up the f1 square for the king, but it is far from enough to survive this. Queen h2 check, king to f1, and now of course the crushing pawn to f4, just opening up the f file in front of the white king. So Kramnik does not resign here. He actually still finds poison in the position. He plays queen to e6 with check, king to b8, and now rook to d8 with check. He gives up a rook to survive the attack. Rook captures, and now queen captures on e4, threatening checkmate on b7. But now Hans has a beautiful way of ending the game. Feel free to pause the video and try to find the strongest winning move for black while I give you a couple of seconds. So yeah, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on being a true master of incredible positions. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is of course pawn to f3. This is what Hans played, and it was in this position on move 43 that Vladimir Kramnik resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Problem is, of course, now checkmate is no longer an option. The bishop is blocked by the pawn here. If you play bishop captures on f3, then of course queen to f2 is checkmate, so that's out of the question. And if queen captures, then you align the queen nicely with the king, and we can just play rook h to f8, win the white queen, and of course that's it. Kramnik did not wait for this. After pawn to f3, he resigned, and a wonderful, wonderful victory for Hans, Moke, and Niemann in round 1 of their AI Cup match. And what happened in game 2 was that, of course, now Hans had the white pieces, and he dominated the game completely from my perspective, as I understand it. In the end, it was a drawn rook endgame. It was a queen and rook endgame, then queens got traded off, and then in a completely equal rook endgame, Kramnik was just playing much, much slower. The game ended with Hans having more than 2 minutes on the clock, and Kramnik blundered the position. He blundered the pawn, and then it was game over with some 3 seconds on the clock. So it was a 2-0 victory for Hans. He eliminated Kramnik, and he goes up in the division. So that's what happened in this game. Now, I haven't seen the one that Kramnik lost to a FIDE master on chess.com, but if you guys really want, we can check that one as well. But Kramnik and Hans had their fair share of differences online, and this is, if you guys haven't seen it, this is what Hans replied to Kramnik on his own Twitter profile. So let's check it out.
Здравствуйте, Kramnik. I just first of all want to say that I'm a huge fan of your chess, and I've been following your career, and you've been someone that I've looked up to for a very long time. I saw your recent videos, and I thought that perhaps a resolution to that would be to have an in-person training camp where you'd be able to evaluate my chess on a deeper level, and I'd be happy to do whatever you'd like, play games, look at positions, and you could get a more nuanced understanding of my interesting style that you have talked about extensively. So please let me know. I'd be, anytime I'm not playing a tournament, I could do it anytime, anywhere. Completely up to you, and of course I could compensate you for your time as well, as I would expect for any coaching that you would do. So please consider it. You can reach out to me anywhere, and I hope this is an interesting proposition for you.
So there you have it. That is the proposition. It's hard to say what Kramnik will decide, but I'm gonna go with yeah, not very likely. Although who knows? So what do you think about this? What do you think about Kramnik's ideas? Is the chess world simply too full of cheaters, or is there something else going on? Do you have such experiences playing online? Do you face cheaters a lot? I can't really say. I mean, I've of course I'm not playing on that level, but you know, the quantity that I play mostly bullet and blitz. I can't really say I've ever had a problem of encountering a cheater. When someone crushes me with a brilliancy, I'm actually very happy, and mostly it's because I played really bad. But when you're a former world champion and you just get owned like this, I guess it's a bit of a different story. And yeah, it's rapid time format, so when he's playing, of course, rapid and blitz now, it's much harder than, let's say, 10 years ago, because everyone is so well versed in all of these engine lines. So you never know, you really never know what to expect. Even though in this game, like, it's Kramnik who went out of theory very early on. Okay, Kramnik played, Hans played this knight before, but then Kramnik did not go for this standard knight a3. He played for knight a1, and I don't know. I can say, of course, Hans's theory knowledge, I'm sure, is vast. I don't know if it would cover an IT1 line, but you've seen what happened, and he got a very nice game out of it. So yeah, that's the game, and a little bit of extra info on the subject. Hope you enjoyed that. I would like to thank Kim Dolman, Kaveh Halimadi, Raymond Young, GrisniChessFestival.org.gg, and Ellen Sol Hartstein for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And if you still want to try your luck and skill at playing Alireza in our upcoming event next month, first link in the description below. See you soon.